Tonight, Environmental Protection Authority, under its new leadership appointed by President John Dramani Mahama, demands declaration of state of emergency to deal ruthlessly with Galamsey of all forms, as new CEO reveals killing of some Forestry Commission officers by illegal miners.
Because we have people who are mining that are armed, we get our people having the Forestry Commission staff being killed. It's not out there yet. We need to declare a state of emergency, and then we clean our water bodies.
But the burning question remains: when will the government finally repeal LI 2462, the law that flung open the floodgates for mining in forest reserves?
For another one to be signed, which I signed last Thursday.
So when is it going to Parliament?
It will be laid before Parliament. Mind you, well, very soon.
Top story, as always, is brought to you by Telecel, connecting energies and holy insecticide spray and coil. Enjoy a holy sleep. My name is Faustina Safo. Please stay for details. Tonight, in an unprecedented move, the new leadership of the Environmental Protection Authority, appointed by President John Dramani Mahama, is demanding the declaration of a state of emergency to deal ruthlessly with illegal mining of all forms. CEO of the authority, Professor Nana Ama Brown Kluche, has backed the calls, insisting that it may be the only way to curb the relentless onslaught of illegal mining. Now, this is the first time, really, that a state entity has publicly backed the state of emergency declaration calls. Just months ago, the crisis sparked outrage, with labor unions led by the Trade Union Congress once threatening a nationwide strike, only to back down after the previous government outlined its response. Now, just weeks ago, the Lands Minister revealed to Parliament that nearly all of Ghana's forests and water bodies are under siege by armed illegal miners, ravaging the country's natural resources with impunity. While John Mahama, on the campaign trail, if you would recall, vowed to crack down on the menace. Yet, nearly 3 months into his presidency, the destruction continues at full throttle. While law enforcement agencies have ramped up efforts, arresting over 100 illegal miners in the past week alone, their impact has been minimal. Many miners, now heavily armed, continue to defy the law. While speaking on the probe with Carlos Coloni, Professor Kluche admitted that the EPA and other agencies have been rendered helpless against this growing threat.
I believe that we are at a war, and the fight against these illegal activities cannot be done by any single institution. In fact, it's bigger than any single institution. So it's not EPA. I tell you that our capacity cannot meet up this fight. EPA has 777 employees.
Okay.
And looking at the mining site alone, I mean, the illegal mining site alone, it's beyond that. And mining is not the only activities of the EPA. Now it's a national security problem because the Forestry Commission are not even able to enter certain forests in the country because we have people who are mining that are armed. We get our people having the Forestry Commission staff being killed. It's not out there yet. But
well,
then,
some have been killed.
Yes. It's not out yet, but I'm sure in a due time they will come up with
by these illegal miners.
By the illegal miners, because they are armed there, and the Forestry Commission, they have guards, they have forest guards. They are not as armed as these illegal mining areas that they have the men there armed. And the Forestry Commission uses or works with the national security, they work with the military in this kind of fight. And you can see clearly that there are efforts, but it's not meeting up to the illegalities out there.
Well, she has now backed calls for the declaration of a state of emergency, insisting it might be the only way, really, to get ahead of this menace.
They issued a statement on mining in our water bodies, that all activities in that category must stop. because every activity or mining in our water bodies is completely illegal. There's no license is given for any person or group of persons to mine in our water bodies. So it's a no-go area.
Right.
That is one thing I did immediately, because we know how much our water bodies have been polluted. Virtually every major river in the country is polluted. So it is a state of emergency for our river bodies. But if in a broader term, looking at this national security threat to our land, to our forests, to our communities, to our staff, to even staff of Forestry Commission, and every other Ghanaian, this is a threat to us. I will support the fact that the president should declare a state of emergency for the illegal mining activities. For me, I will go for that. It can even start small with the water bodies, because that I see as an emergency, the situation that we have to deal with. I don't know if I'm the only one seeing the water body situation as an emergency, but the whole country, all Ghanaians must also be part of this fight.
Okay.
Well, the Lands Minister, Emmanuel Ama Kofi-Boa, described the illegal mining menace as a crisis of our lifetime. Now, he said this at the launch of the Blue Water Guards Initiative. Now, this initiative is aimed at training and deploying water guards to police water bodies.
We've been endowed with a lot of resources, and we have laid out laws and guidelines on how to mine for gold, and government is prepared to support every Ghanaian who is prepared to mine for gold, to do it in a very legal, environmentally sustainable manner. Our once thriving forests and water bodies, who should be vibrant symbols of our national pride and prosperity, are under unprecedented siege. The small-scale mining sector, which holds tremendous potential for a sustainable economic growth, is instead marred by rampant illegalities, impairing the very foundation of our society. The repercussions are far-reaching and devastating. Toxic rivers, vanishing biodiversity, food shortages, climate disruptions, and crippling public health emergencies. This is the real challenge we face. The imperative for urgent action has never been more pressing. The term they use, they call it the urgency of now. People don't want us to say it, but this is crisis of our lifetime.
Well, that's him just telling us what exactly it is. He describes it as a crisis of our lifetime. Just last week, though, the Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, Dr. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, told Joy News the process to repeal the existing legislative instrument, LI 2462, which opened up forest reserves for mining, has already begun.
As a matter of fact, we have started the process to repeal the LI. We wrote, mind you, the LI ought to be initiated from the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology. We started the process last 2 weeks. In fact, that was barely a week after I was sworn in. We did what we needed to do. I signed the letter to the Ministry of Justice and Attorney General. The ministry looked at it and did what they needed to do and returned the letter to me for another one to be signed, which I signed last Thursday.
So when is it going to Parliament?
It will be laid before Parliament. Mind you, well, very soon.
Exactly is very soon. That's the question we're asking tonight on Top Story, and we're getting answers shortly. But let me take you to Parliament. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante joins us live with more. Kweku, we just heard from the minister last week Friday assuring that the process to actually repeal LI 2462 would be triggered this week. And he said soon, to be precise. Last week, did you monitor what happened in floor of Parliament? Did it come up at all?
No, in fact, as we speak, that LI has not, the revocation has not been put before Parliament. But in fact, the day after Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed granted advancement at that interview, he was on the floor together with the Attorney General. At the time, the House had been suspended in a conversation, and my understanding was that there was a conversation about what exactly the process would be in putting that revocation LI before the House. In fact, at some point, the Lands Minister joined, and the former Lands Minister, Samuel Abujinapo, also joined. And so from the top, you could see the four gentlemen in the middle of Parliament having a conversation. What I've been able to pick was that they were sharing ideas in terms of the processes, because the Lands Minister, the former Lands Minister, and other people have their own views on how this process should go. So, Faustina, two things. First, that revocation LI has not been laid, and so LI 2462 is still in force, but we understand the process is far advanced, and had it not been for the budget and its processes, it will be laid. Tomorrow, again, Parliament will sit and will monitor to see if Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed will keep to his word and put that LI revocation before the House to revoke LI 2462.
Thank you, Kweku Asante, our parliamentary affairs correspondent. So tonight on Top Story, we're just getting into this, really looking at the commitment from government. Now we've been hearing from the EPA boss for the first time. She's backing calls for a state of emergency to be declared on our water bodies. We've had assurances from the Lands Minister that indeed they will deal with this issue. Today, he launched the Blue Water Guards Initiative in the Western region. And we've also been hearing from the Environment Minister. He's been assuring that the process is far advanced to ensure that LI 2462 is repealed. Now, we will be having the conversation shortly as we look at what exactly government has done so far and what we should expect from them. You can share your thoughts with us on all our social media handles. This is Top Story. You can share your thoughts with us on WhatsApp 055-1111-997 as we get into the conversation. I told you that the Lands Minister as well as the Environment Minister will be joining us shortly as we look into this. We want to get details about this Blue Water Guards Initiative. What exactly is it? How different is it from existing initiatives launched by previous administration to deal with illegal mining? Now, we've been hearing also from the EPA. Just give us a picture of what is happening on the ground. Members of the Forestry Commission task force on the ground that's actually dealing with this issue, we've been hearing that they've been actually killed by some of these illegal miners, and that's a concern to us. We're just getting on the phone lines right now to speak to them. You're still listening to Top Story. We'll be back. You're still listening to Top Story, and thankfully I have on the phone lines now the CEO of the Environmental Protection Authority, Professor Nanama Brown-Kluge. Thank you so much for your time here on Top Story. Now, you've just been revealing some shocking details about the acts of illegal miners ravaging the country's natural resources with impunity. Now, you say that some of them have even gone the extra mile to attack some of the Forestry Commission staff on the ground trying to deal with this situation. Currently, as we speak, we've been hearing from the Lands Minister just launched a new initiative to deal with illegal mining, the Blue Water Guards Initiative. Share your thoughts on this. How effective will this be in dealing with the issue of illegal mining?
Hello. Good evening. Yeah, so good evening to your listeners. As I said on set yesterday, in my first week, I issued a statement for all illegal activities to be ceased in our water bodies and around the water bodies. So when we observe the situation now, we see that we're still in that critical situation where the illegal activities are still ongoing. That is the state that we are in. A lot of the water bodies are polluted and they're still going through the same pollution from illegal mining activities. That is currently the situation.
Now, you want government to declare a state of emergency, and that's the first time we're hearing from an authority actually backing the calls by civil society organizations to indeed declare state of emergency. With the launching of the Blue Water Guards initiative, do you think it's enough to deal with the issue of the pollution of our water bodies?
Yes. So the idea of the Blue Water Initiative by the president is to remediate our water bodies and then make use of the water bodies, so the resources, so water as a resource and the good things we can get out of it. But if we have the water bodies polluted, we cannot use the water for anything at all. So first we need to remediate the water, protect the water, and then use it for everything that we plan to use it for, which includes it being a source of water for drinking, for domestic purposes, for commercial purposes, and even for travel. But as it is now, we can't use it for anything. And so we first need to remediate the water, and then we protect the water. So the issue of water guards that's going to be employed are going to protect the water for the sustainability of the cleanup exercise that we are going to do.
But in spite of this initiative, do you still feel it's necessary to declare a state of emergency?
Yes, I would say at least for our water bodies, it's an emergency situation. We need to have the president declare a state of emergency. What I don't know is the implication, because I'm a technical person. I don't know the implication it has with diplomacy or national security or any other thing. What I feel or know is for the state of our water bodies now, it needs that kind of declaration. So it's in the president's own prerogative to declare or not declare, depending on the advice you get from other institutions.
Okay.
But again, from the technical point of view, that is the route I will go.
Now, let me bring in now the Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, Dr. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. Thank you so much for your time here on Top Story. Just last week, Monday, you told Evans Mensah that you are going to trigger the processes in Parliament to repeal existing LI 2462, which actually opened the floodgates for mining in forest reserves. It's been 1 week after. What's the update?
Well, first and foremost, let me say good evening to your cherished listeners. I'm surprised you're interviewing, EPA chief executive and you're interviewing me too on the same thing. But that is beside the point. We actually started the process. I engaged the ranking on subsidiary and legislation, Honorable Patrick Buama. I engaged the leadership, and we will be laying it pretty soon. What I said, and which I want to reiterate, is that this LI will be repealed before the expiration of the 120 days that the president promised. That I said, and I remember when Evans wanted me to give specific date, I said no. But one thing I can assure you and your listening public, that we will meet the 120 days promises the president made. So what happened because of the budget? We had a discussion. We agreed that we are not going to have a pre-laying because it is just an amendment of that portion that we are doing. So we don't need pre-laying because we knew that if we were to engage in pre-laying, it was going to take a longer time. So we agreed when I spoke with Honorable Patrick Buama and then spoke with the Honorable Susu and also the leadership. They all agreed that there wouldn't be the need for any pre-laying. So the laying, hopefully, we are looking forward to it. We may have it tomorrow or latest on Wednesday. We'll have it late.
Do you think it's high time we declare state of emergency, especially with our water bodies?
Well, I'm not in the position to determine whether the security, situation is enough for us to do so. The people clothed with the capacity to do that is the leadership of the security agencies. But if indeed the security agencies deems it fit for us to declare a state of emergency, why not? But one thing I can say is that it's a fight We will not relent. We will fight it, and we will not spare anybody who is participating directly or indirectly in the destruction of our water bodies and the habitat and the environment we live in.
We've just been hearing from the EPA. Just give us a sense of what is happening on the ground. Illegal miners attacking forestry commission staff, killing them. What's been done to deal with this issue, really?
Well, if any attempts to do so, such individuals will be treated as pure criminals. And the appropriate action certainly will be taken against them. I don't want to put out certain information out there because they border on security, they border on proper planning. And you remember, even before we provided the information of the excavator seized and the people arrested, we didn't announce it. We think that is the way we need to act. Because if you come on radio to announce what you intend to do, then you must as well just forget of doing that. As I talk to you, there's some action that is being taken, and we won't announce that on radio. No, I won't do that.
Thank you so much, Minister for Environment, Science and Technology. Just giving us a sense of what we should expect. Well, join me now. I also have Ken Ashimi. You've been leading this for a while, pushing the fight against illegal mining. We've been hearing from government today. They launched a new initiative, the Blue Water Guards Initiative. Now, they plan to train and deploy water guards. This is not different, really, from what we've seen in the past with the Operation Vanguard. Do you think this is a more effective way of dealing with the issue?
No, don't compare this to Operation Vanguard. This is nowhere close to Operation Vanguard. This is the same as what the former government, this water guards thing that the former government launched somewhere in 2022. And you see, well, the difference that the Minister of Lands tells us is that they will be using local people. The challenge you have is that the level of the people who they're dealing with, the way in which they are armed, the capacity, whether these people will have the capacity to be able to deal with them. Sometimes, the areas where these activities are happening. And the question you would ask yourself is, how much training do these people have, so that they'll be able to deal with it? So, what the intention is good, but I am not too sure how effective this is, unless this is coupled with support from the Navy, support from the Air Force, so that where it is difficult for these water guards to be able to get into some treacherous areas, the Air Force can fly sorties over these places where they will be supported by the army on land. And so if we only leave it to these people who are within these communities, it will be difficult. And then what would also be important, and I'm sure those are some of the plans that the minister has, is the decentralization, so that these people would be working under a DC. But we have seen this issue about water guards being trained and being launched in the past, and so that with itself, it would not. It's not a novel thing. It's not a new thing, and so it would have to be coupled with other things. We know the situation, even from the Operation Vanguard situation, where even some of the military and the police people were compromised. Now you have these currently, as we speak, a lot of the police leadership in most of these mining places are even compromised as well. And so if these people are going to act, and the amount of money that is involved, then the leadership to ensure that they are doing what it is that they are going to do is going to be important. So for me, this water guard thing, it is not new. Just go back onto Joy FM, your own website, and you will find out that, sometime in government talks about deploying speedboats on the river guards to tackle Galamsey. That was done in 27 July 2022. You have all of these situations that have happened in the past. So 87 guards passed out to protect country's river bodies. That happened on October 26, 2022. And so it's not novel. So it has to be coupled with other things. That is why, for me, the state of emergency is critical, and that's where I disagree with the current government and the Minister of Environment that you have in the studio. I completely disagree with them.
You disagree with what exactly?
I disagree with the fact that the state of emergency is not being declared in selected places. If you're going to get these river guards to work, what would have to happen is that on the river bodies, and then in the forest reserves, of which we lost 9 that the government has currently been able to reclaim about 4, there are 40 other ones who are also under siege. You need to declare state of emergency in the selected places, so that when these people are working, everybody knows that nobody goes into these locations. And then you support that with the security services and all of that to be able to rein this thing in. As we speak, the forest reserves, the water bodies under serious siege. And if we don't do anything about it, we will do all of these things and we would come back to nothing.
Hearing from the Environment Minister, give us a timeline. He assures that LI 2462 will be repealed. I'm sure you're pleased.
Definitely very pleased. I'm happy about the fact that he talks about the fact that they are even going to waive the pre-laying so that they would be able to cut the process. And for me, this is the way to go, where the government, the ministers, as they take their actions, they carry Ghanaians along. This definitely is a confidence building measure. It tells us that the government is committed to do, not only to do it, but it's actually doing it. And I'm definitely sure with once all of this is being put in place, in the coming days, we're going to see this obnoxious law be repealed. What we want to see is to see a copy of the amendment that is going to be done. But we definitely need to commend the minister. He gave his word for this, and at least there's some action being taken. We want to see the bill being laid and getting the 21 days. I don't know whether, the parliamentarians and the lawyer and the AG and all of that will find a way in which they don't need to do the 21 days as well. But whatever it is, I think this is good progress that has been made. The thing that now we need to do, with the good intention of the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources and the activity that is, we all need to support to bring a lot of pressure. I can tell you, there's a lot of political actors involved in the Galamsey now. You have the situations where the MPP people who were involved in it are now going behind and collaborating with their NDC partners to say that their party is in power, and they are perpetuating it.
Thank you so much, Ken Ashigbe. He's convener Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. I spoke to Murtala Muhammad, Minister for Environment, earlier, and also spoke to the EPA boss. Thank you so much for your time. And that's how we wrap up Top Story. Up next is Newsnight.